Triple M NRL Daily, and it's worth doing one today after one of the great grand finals of all time. Off the back of a damn good season of footy, Wade Graham, James Graham, Dave Riccio caught our breath after what we witnessed at Homebush last night, gentlemen. How good was that?
Oh, it was an incredible performance from the Broncos. Firstly, congratulations. I think back to the Melbourne game where both Adam Reynolds and Ezra Mam go down, Selwyn Cobbo later in the game, and a lot of people could have easily said that's their season over right there. But with their experience and the depth they have in their squad, they lifted themselves off the canvas. They went on to a run into the back end of the season, and they got the job done. Vanquished a few demons from a couple of seasons ago. And, when you look at the game, it's hard to know where to start. Is it Madge and his job up there, what he's managed to do at the Broncos? Is it Adam Reynolds taking that club to another premiership? The Ben Hunt circling back to his days at the Broncos. And we know the history that he had. And, of course, Reece Walsh with one of the great grand final performances from an individual. He was just brilliant last night. Some of his defensive play, we know we always look at him and how he attacks and how he creates opportunities for his team, but his defensive saves last night, stopping tries, won them the grand final.
You talk about catching your breath. Well, we nearly lost it in the second minute when Mariner's gone over. Melbourne haven't touched the ball. Talk about flirting with the in goal. Could you imagine? That was millimetres away. But the journey that this Broncos team is on, Wade, you touched on it. The comeback victory against the Raiders. We said, well, you can't afford to put yourself in that position against the Panthers. They did, and they came back. I, like many others, said, well, you can't afford to do that in a grand final against the Melbourne Storm. Well, they did. And then at halftime, Dan Ganane gives us the stat that Coach Bellamy has never lost a finals game in his entire history of coaching when his side, the Melbourne Storm, has been up at halftime. And we thought, well, yeah, well, okay. Melbourne certainly in the box seat. We think back to those previous two games that the Broncos have played based off what we've been saying about they can't ride it out again, but they did.
When Adam Reynolds and Ezra Mam went down with injuries mid-season, fellas, I sat here and I copped it from Broncos fans because I said, guys, you've got enough depth in this extreme squad. There's enough talent there. You have the pickings of almost the entire state of Queensland to have a production line of talent. You will be right. And there were some hurdles. There were some hurdles to jump along the way, namely, as what Jam had just said, all those comeback victories. But they had the X factor of which the Storm don't like. And if you think about the Storm's arrival to Grand Final Day, they came through a Bulldog side that were decimated through injury on the night and didn't have the X factor to try and test the Melbourne Storm. Then they faced a Cronulla Sharks side in the prelim that are also devoid of a genuine X factor. And that is exactly what happened last night. Broncos had the talent to keep testing and coming at the Melbourne Storm, and they got there.
I've never seen. I was racking my brain watching the game. I had the luxury of just sitting on the couch, so you guys were probably out there. So you miss things, you see things, and you're all working and talking. What I was sitting there on the couch for an hour after full time, trying to think of better individual performances in a big game of their chosen sport, a team sport. Like, you got individuals like Tiger Woods and Roger Federer doing these things, but they're hard to come by. And what we saw from Reece Walsh, and I'd like your guys' thoughts on this, because the marriage, the rugby league marriage between Reece Walsh and Michael Maguire, you look at the start of it and you go, that's oil and water. That ain't going to mix too well. And it could end one of two ways, that he ends up being one of the greatest players in the game right now or at another club. How has it worked? Like the appreciation that Reece Walsh showed Michael Maguire after it, and I know they won and everyone's feeling good, but how has it worked? And I don't know if you guys who have played have seen players with unbelievable talent being elevated by a coach who just it works for them, even though on paper you think, can it?
Well, I think for me, when you look at that team, it comes down to the common goal. Now, we know Michael Maguire is a hard taskmaster, but he's hard because he wants to chase a premiership. He wants to win, and he knows the journey he's been through before. And then to instill that in your players and to have them buy in and be happy to do the work and happy to go through the hardships to try and earn that common goal, which is the premiership. It's resonated with that team. And he didn't have to invent the wheel up there. This team, they went to a grand final 2 years ago, but he certainly had to polish some rough edges off and galvanise that team. And he managed to do it. Like Maguire's last 3 years, what he did in New Zealand Test football, then the Origin series for the Blues last year, and now finally getting a premiership back to the Broncos with how big they are as a club and how long it's been since they've won a premiership. It can't be understated what an achievement it is from Michael Maguire and how he's got that group to play at the level that they did. And Reece, in terms of like the storyline, it may not be up there with the greatest individual performance, but you could argue it.
Yeah.
Some people would say Cleary's period was probably the best. Andrew Johns at the start of the game when he just took Parramatta apart.
One. Yeah.
But Reece was both sides of the ball, and the game's full of moments. He was influential in all of them, but none bigger than the Kamakamitha try saver where they had a little kick go through, big man chasing the ball, looked like he was going to score for all money. That would put Melbourne out to a 3-try lead. Somehow Reece wheels himself over there and forces the error. And I think in that single play, saved the grand finals for the Broncos.
Yeah, Melbourne didn't register a single point in the second half, and that was the closest they came. I know they did have a number of opportunities, but I think that was the closest they actually came. I'm going to flip what you said about Reece Walsh and Michael Maguire, and I wonder how much Michael Maguire has changed because of Reece Walsh.
Have you seen that happen with good players doing that to good coaches? Like,
well, the talk of Brisbane, like speaking with a couple of journalists yesterday, they're reliably informed that at a point in the season, some of the senior players have approached Maguire and asked them to trust them a little bit more and dial things down,
like Canberra did with Ricky.
Not too dissimilar.
Don't be too.
Yeah, I think that was more. Ricky's one was more about riding, or the result of, or the outcome of a defeat affecting him for too long and not being able to overcome that. But I think with this, it was more of a can we just dial the video sessions length, intensity down? We'll still do it on the paddock. We're not talking about physical preparation. We're talking about the drain of some long preview, review, education sessions, which I think Maguire adopted. And I think if you look at the season where the Broncos were, they were outside the 8 for a lot of time during the course of this season, and then they dialed it right up towards the back end. And I think that coincides with that story of being asked for a little bit less intensity during those hardcore video sessions.
I want to take nothing away from Michael Maguire's achievement, and this is extraordinary. In his first season for the Brisbane Broncos, delivers that premiership for the first time since 2006, and it's a coaching marathon, the NRL season. He's done an extraordinary job, but I want to say this, and he would acknowledge this: rosters make coaches too, and this is a gun roster, of which he did not have at the West Tigers. And we saw what happened at the Tigers, and every Tigers fan would be sitting around going, "Oh, well, I wish he could have done that with us." But the rosters were chalk and cheese, and he's been able to mould a group of which he's star-studded. The likes of Pat Carrigan, Katoni Staggs, Reece Walsh, Shibasaki came of age under his coaching. Ben Hunt, Adam Reynolds. This is a gun roster of which
Haas.
only needed Payne Haas. Like, how could I leave Payne Haas out?
He's pretty good.
He goes all right. This is a roster that only needed, I would argue, massaging and direction. And Madge has delivered that. But I think we just need to calm down a little bit on again, Test Kiwi coach, really good roster too, and he did a great job as well. State of Origin team, good roster, did really well as well. I think we just, I think the next step is going to be even more fascinating, and we're still getting over our hangover, and it hasn't even started, to be fair, in Brisbane. But the chapter for the Broncos is how they now fend off pressure of being the hunted. That's where the next step will be for the Broncos.
I think in defence of Maguire, you mentioned the star players there, Dave, but I think in terms of coaching, Shibasaki, Karapani, Mariner, who was fantastic, Hetherington, who was amazing off the bench, people like Tolty that
terrific
were close to
Corey Jensen.
Corey Jensen again, but Maguire. There's a couple there that were not in the 17 in previous years, but were in the squad, and then some that he's brought to the club that have managed to find themselves, being key elements of that roster. I think that's where Maguire should receive his praise.
Yep.
It's the work that, because Walsh, Haas, Carrigan, you could put them in any jersey.
There's not a coach in the game that wouldn't want them in their pack.
Yeah, and they don't need much instruction. They're very self-driven, self-motivated. But it was interesting to hear Shibasaki and how much credit he gives to Madge for his development. I think that's where, and you could argue that, we know Reece Walsh won them the football game. We know Reynolds got them over the line in the second week of finals. We know Walsh got them over the line against the Canberra Raiders, but it is a team effort. And Shibasaki got 2 tries yesterday. He's had an enormous season. And sometimes it's the value you can get from roster number 15 to 25, which really separates the margins at the top.
And you need to strike. And Penrith have done this so well with the regeneration that's happened over a number of years. And Wade, I forget exactly what it was like at the Sharks, but you need guys playing above their number on their contract consistently across the board. And like, it's hard to get. Walsh arguably played like a cheap player last night, given how good he was. But Payne, Haas, Pat Carrigan, you've got. But the guys who are, your 200 to 400 bracket, if they're overperforming, you've got to strike, because then they'll want their payday, and then that makes it hard to keep everyone.
100%. The next time Shibasaki comes off contract, he was on a train and trial.
End of next year.
Yeah, he was on a train and trial when he signed there. He got an opportunity, but now we're going to talk about the Kangaroo selection later. He just got picked in the Kangaroo side, so he'll be a test player by the time this summer is out. And I suppose they'll enjoy this now. The Broncos, particularly after 2 seasons ago, the way they lost against the Panthers, but. Again, the next part will be how can we carry this on and how can we get back up to the top of that tree? Because many years ago, it seemed like going back to back was a challenging feat in the NRL. But since that time, since the Roosters, broke that sort of drought, and now we've seen Penrith go on and have that sustained success. The Broncos, with their roster, with the age of their players, of course, we'll have some issues moving forward around contracting, but they'll want to be with the club and the resources that they have. They'll want to be at the top and remain at the top.
Fellas, the role of the fullback in today's game, I think it's now on par with your halfback. I think the fullback is now. I'm not afraid to say I think it's the most influential position on the football field. And you think about the impact of Reece Walsh. But also on the other side of the field was Ryan Papenhuyzen, who actually played outstanding. Like, he had a great game. Then you think about the rest of the pack as far as the finals teams are concerned, and it's James Tedesco, the Dally M Champion of the Year. K.O. Weeks, outstanding season with the Raiders. And it's the Dogs and the Sharks with Connor Tracy and Will Kennedy. They're 7 out of 10 every week, but they're not in the elite category. And I went and had a look at most try assists this season. Now, of the 11 most try assists this season, 7 of the 11 are either current or former fullbacks. So halves in teams, either Nico Hines as an example, is a former fullback. 7 of the top 11 try assists this year are from current or former fullbacks. And I think that speaks volumes about the role of the number one. And I think it's so critical for you to have an elite fullback to be any chance. And if you go back through all the premiership winning sides, they've all had a gun fullback.
Well, you look at the ball playing ability of Walsh, Jimmy. Some of those passes last night, the last part, the one that he threw left to right, and I think it was
Shibasaki,
it was Warbrick who came in, and he just rifled this thing through his power off his hips and
Yep.
said he does that both sides.
Yeah,
So
arguably
the timing
his
and
arguably his best pass was the one that was called forward.
oh no,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
he
Like,
saw something no one else saw.
Yeah.
Like the execution
Yeah.
difficulty rating was 10, and he was a 9.5. It just arguably drifted slightly forward, but got it over Coates under all sorts of pressure. Has no right, like absolutely no right to even think about throwing that pass, but he did. Everything about him. We mentioned the defense. We mentioned the attack. The fitness levels is probably something that isn't spoken about with Reece Walsh. The try that he scored, he's parked over on the right hand side, out the back or anticipating some block play off a 2-pass shift. They turn the ball back inside to Hetherington. He then, we know he's quick, but he's quicker between the ears. He runs all the way around to the left-hand side of the ruck, demands a football on play 5, and then just goes Melbourne 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. See you later. I'm under the posts. Like
That was a great try.
It was under 10s.
that is, but it's just remarkable that he was so far away from the action.
Yeah.
Found himself and then there was I think on one of the tries to Shibasaki, he's involved in the shift to the right hand side of the field. I think he creates a line break up on the right, and then within a blink of an eye, he's over on the left hand side supplying another try assist. It was incredible.
The critical thing is, guys, is whether all of this magic shouldn't have happened with Reece Walsh and his high shot on Xavier Coates, of which I can tell you for the record has been charged by the match review committee this morning. It's a grade 1 high tackle, careless, and it is his third and subsequent offence of an early plea, $3,000 fine.
Yeah.
Now, if he
afford it?
If he went, can he afford it? If he went to the judiciary, it's a 2-match ban. 2-match ban if he was found guilty.
He's not going to do a Ryan Madison, is he? And
yeah.
Let's just
Sorry,
keep
Ryan.
it positive.
Just interestingly, Trent Liero, guys, who was sin binned, early plead 2 matches. He was charged with a grade 2 careless high tackle.
Did you hear the ref? Did you hear Grant Atkins? What his adjudication, which I kind of get, but you guys can tell me how consistent. You guys have seen a lot more footy than I have at the grounds this year. He said he was falling, and he said to him, "It's the only thing."
Yeah, that for me is how the rule should be used. There's clear mitigation because he was falling.
Adam Reynolds was round Xavier Coates' legs.
And that affected the height of the player he was trying to tackle. Now, there's no doubt he hit him with force, and penalty.
More force than his headbutt a couple of weeks before.
I'm happy
of which he was
that.
sin binned
I
for.
would
Of which
like
he
to
was
see that
sin binned
rule
for.
more consistently in the regular season than just the big games.
Well, with the speed of movement and the ability to react, Reece Walsh cannot do a thing about that because he is set to tackle, and you can't put in your calculations a falling Xavier Coates. You just cannot. It's impossible to do. Like, yes, we treat contact with the head with a level of importance, but we've got to understand that it may happen, and it's a risk that everybody accepts. I think Xavier Coates, any player in the NRL, would accept that is a risk that they are willing to walk towards and sign up for because he is falling into the contact. Maybe with the Liero one, you could say, I'm not prepared to accept that level of risk because it's upright, it's shoulder to the head.
And he's also made the decision to come out of the line and create contact.
He's the cause.
Carrigan the week before, exactly.
He was the cause.
And I get that when Reece is coming across in cover defence,
there's nothing he can do.
And he's reacting to a tackle that's happening in front of him just because he's moving at pace and there is force to the head. But there is mitigating circumstances. I think there's a clear distinction between the two different types.
I think you both explain it really, really well. The problem is we've seen those sin binned.
That's the next bit.
That's the issue.
They should, in my opinion, and I don't know if they ever will because we know finals games are refereed a little bit differently. But I would like to see that be more consistent throughout the year.
Well, that's the
There's clear-
template.
Well,
Can't
we-
they use
well,
that?
we've
Put it up
seen
in the
them
bunker. and say,
unfortunately,
"Here."
Yeah.
we've seen them sim bin, but we've also seen them not sim bin.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, it's the old. Oh, you've seen them given on a forward pass, but we've also seen them not given.
Yeah.
What I found amazing as well was that drama of the second half about how Adam Reynolds goes out. I thought it was Achilles at one stage. Do we know exactly
Calf.
what it was? It is calf.
Yep.
Calf just completely
Blue.
went. But he said he was going to run it back next year, so it wasn't like I was half expecting not
Well,
to say it there.
He
but
climbed the stage to
Yeah.
start his acceptance speech, a winning speech, and he looked ready to go. I thought he was bouncing up the stairs.
Yeah. Okay. I'm glad it wasn't an Achilles, but I thought at some stage, we're going to get the R word here from Adam Reynolds, but no, he wants to go again. And Ben Hunt, I mean, for him to just, the guy's so unlucky in grand finals, but for them to still have that moment is
It's
so good.
It's everything. And again, before the match, I'm neutral observer. I didn't really have any feelings toward each team.
I had less than no feelings towards
I
each
didn't
team.
have a horse in the race, so I wasn't really sure who I was feeling to win the game. But then as the game went on and the longer it went on, and you couldn't help but enjoy the way Brisbane clawed their way back in that second half. They got to a lead, but then when you see Adam Reynolds go down, Ben Hunt go down, and the possibility that they might lose, I started to get the bad feeling in the stomach. Like, don't let it happen to these guys again. Not with them off the field. And another issue in the game where they looked destined to win, but they just fell short because of how the game panned out. So we're going to talk about Melbourne and how disappointed they would be. They had their own things they had to deal with. Obviously, a great season as well. It's not easy to go to back-to-back grand finals. They've climbed that summit twice, and they've just fallen short on the night and been beaten by a better team on each occasion. So it's hard to, in one sense go, yes, it was a positive season. We got back to the grand final, but then have to deal with the emotion, the feeling of disappointment, the loss in failing to get the job done 2 seasons in a row.
Yeah, Jimmy, on Melbourne Storm, so they have the lead at halftime. You said the stat before about Bellamy. They're one good play at the end of the game from turning it around and coming away with a remarkable premiership, but they don't. The music stops and they go far out. We've got 12 months to try and get back here again with a similar kind of makeup. If they do, what needs to be slightly different about their approach?
Yeah, well, both grand finals for them would really hurt. That there was some opportunities in that one against Penrith. Penrith defence, I felt, won them the contest. It was Brisbane's attack that won
This one.
and then some moments of brilliance from Reece Walsh, some desperate plays that will go down in grand final history. Coach Bellamy was adamant after the game that he was going to double down in the off-season on some of those areas that he felt were not quite enough. I think looking at the whole of season from Melbourne, they've cruised. There's been moments in games where they've looked so far ahead of their opposition, it's not even funny.
Remember
and then,
the first game? You called
Melbourne.
They were 40-0
Melbourne
at
Para,
half-time.
they did the same to the Tigers. That home ground advantage on Sunday afternoon has been exceptional. But then some of the losses in concentration and you know what, Coach Bellamy said it in the year. At no point has our defence won us a game. And you think back to the Melbourne game at home, the Roosters that put 40 on them, the milestone game that was lost. Coach Bellamy's one. I don't know if one of those was the same one. I can't recall, but I think for Melbourne, probably biggest issue is again no Nelson on grand final day. Is he too tall? And if that is the case, what are you going to do? Because they're paying him a lot of money. They need him when you're paying a middle $800,000-$900,000 a year. You need them to be out there. And I feel for Nelson because we speak about high contact. In my opinion, he's just too tall, and it's too difficult to change what they do about that. How they move in the market, if at all, because it's a hot market with the Perth Bears coming in.
Well, Nelson's telling them that he's not going anywhere, and on that money, I can understand why. But it is going to reach a crescendo and a tipping point, because you cannot, to Jammer's point, you can't have an $850,000 forward who's not playing, who's
Playing cup. Yeah.
well, playing cup and or sitting on the sideline suspended. There has to be a resolution there, and whether it's a case of taking a hit on your salary cap to pay him to play elsewhere,
Which is I can't remember Melbourne ever doing that.
very rare. Very rare.
Like,
Very rare.
Other clubs do it
Yeah.
a bit, but
I reached out to the New Zealand Warriors a few weeks ago in relation to would you pick up Nelson Asafa-Solomona if the Melbourne Storm were willing to.
you his agent.
No, well, there had been
There were
suggestions
whispers,
about Nas and the Warriors.
It's a good
but
little side hustle, though. don't
yeah,
you?
yeah. Well, you got to try, don't you, mate?
Steve Gillis started that way. I mean,
There was no interest from the Warriors' point of view.
Dragons.
Hey,
I think the Dragons would take him.
everything comes at a price, and
Yeah.
that's why I reckon Melbourne. How hard they want him out of the club depends on how much they're willing to chip in.
yeah.
I think, like from a Melbourne performance perspective, there'll be elements of Coach Bellamy that will look at the defence around superstars like Reece Walsh. I don't think you can underestimate the loss of Jack Howarth in the opening exchanges. Then McDonald, or a bench basically down to 15. I know Alec McDonald did come back in. But then the
was
second
unlucky.
half they were
Tackled the post.
they were so they were winning the ruck completely. Brisbane had no answer. They passed the ball to get meters. They were playing the ball quickly. They were controlling the ruck minus a couple that Brisbane then exploited. But I wondered if at half time they changed their approach, because it was a completely different Melbourne
Yeah, what was the
side.
body language behind the ball? Sometimes you can pick up. You can't see it on the TV. Behind the ball,
I
sometimes
don't know, just
you
the
see
level
energy.
of performance was just different. Maybe some of that is to do.
There was stack of
pain-
fatigue in the line.
Yeah,
you
like-
could see exhaustion setting in with the
Yeah.
speed of the game.
Yeah,
They were starting to knock up the Melbourne Storm, I thought.
yeah, you're right there. And then Payne Haas, they covered him in the first
second
Yeah.
half. They couldn't
second
tackle.
half. They couldn't get old.
He
Like
found
he
that
was.
soft spot in
behind
behind
the ruck, yeah,
and he was
yeah.
just, and Hetherington too. He made
He was awesome.
massive impact. Similar, straight north south carries, finding the soft spot behind.
I've
the
never
ruck.
seen him play as well.
It was
Finally,
great.
some good news for Manly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a
you gotta-
signing!
yeah.
He's on his way.
I would just say on Melbourne, I think, because you talk about what needs to change for them to get the job done. That's why it'll hurt so much, because not a whole lot has to change. And the
That's what I
game,
mean, yeah.
the game was there in front of them. They'll do the review, and if you go out there and you just get beat by a better team, you're at your best, and you get beat by a better team, you can sort of, I reckon, walk into the video room and deal with the emotion after the loss a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But they weren't at their best, unfortunately, for them on the night. And again, we talk about Reece and how brilliant he was, and he did. He come up with amazing try savers. But as a player, like, come a comfortable look at that and go, I should have got that. I should have executed it.
See Cameron Munster's reaction
I
to
could
it.
have executed it. And then
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
little dagger. And then Papenhuyzen makes a break. He creates half an opportunity. They don't get that done. And then Eli Katoa makes a break. And Pappenhausen's on the inside. I know Reece Walsh did a fantastic job, but if you get that situation 10 times in a game, you back yourself to ice it 9 times. They just didn't do it on the night where it mattered most. And that'll be the hard thing for the Melbourne Storm to get over, knowing that they weren't at their best. And again, they scored 22 points. That defensive system, I know they're playing a superstar roster and they had issues dealing with it, but if they review themselves and go, if we're at our best, can we defend 22 points? Can we keep our 22 points? I think they will go, yes.
In 40 minutes.
Yes,
They
yes.
scored 22 points in 40
Yeah,
minutes.
and so if you go at the start of the year when you're setting your goals or whatnot, your standards, they would go, if we score 22 points, we back ourselves to win a game of football off the back of our standards and where we believe our defence should be. And unfortunately for them, they just weren't at their best on Sunday night, and Brisbane got the job over them.
You're talking about what do Melbourne do in the preseason. I think the absolute most pivotal dilemma for them and what they need to address before a ball is kicked next year is the contract situation with Ryan Papenhuyzen, Cameron Munster and Jonah Pezet. Because mentally those are massive decisions of which they can't carry into next season and have it hanging over their heads. They are elite players. Jonah's still coming through clearly, but I just feel as though, and you've been there, boys, on when you're setting a task to try and win a comp, when in the background you're still trying to sort out your future, and you might have one foot in the door but also one foot out the door. I don't think that's a recipe for success. And I think the sooner Munster determines whether he's going to the Perth Bears or is he staying at the Storm or is he entertaining R360, is Jonah Pezet staying at the Storm or is it the Parramatta Eels that he might end up at? Ryan Papenhuyzen, is he going? Is Sua Fa'alogo going to be the fullback? These are the biggest decisions that the Melbourne Storm need to face in the off-season.
I do agree with that in a sense that if those decisions are made and put to bed, it gives you more stability. And as soon as you have that stability within your club, you have clarity. You know where you're going. It's easier just to all get on board and head in that one direction. And again, I don't think it was the reason that they lost. I think, again, I think they just got beat by a better team on the night. But moving forward, if it wasn't Craig Bellamy there, I think there would be the issues already around it. Possibly a divide, losing focus, and that clarity. But because of obviously Craig Bellamy and how strong he is, they've been able to get through it. But the longer it goes, the more chance of, pulling away from the group.
Last one on the grand final before a quick break. How much enthusiasm will there be from Brisbane when they get the call or the WhatsApp message to say, boys, we're going on this army camp for pre-season? Are they going to be okay with it, you reckon?
I think they'll be all right.
I think they'll be all right.
I think they'll be okay.
Because the proof is there, given how they repelled the great teams in September. Yeah. That's the proof of the army camp working, I guess.
They'll do whatever
Well,
they need to.
if there's an NRL team that doesn't go on some sort of camp, which I'd be highly surprised if there is, there won't be any this year.
Could you imagine being in Brisbane right now?
No,
the scenes up there. Like how long has it been since they won a competition?
06.
06. And for that club to go this long with the strength of their supporters and the pride
19 years.
Pride of the city.
Imagine all the queues at the bars. Hate having to queue for a beer.
To be honest, after the last
have you
week
been to
we've
Brisbane?
had, Jimmy,
have you seen
I can't
how
even
many
think
bars
about
there are
having
up
beer.
there?
Yeah,
How many
but
places
still,
to
it'd
buy
be
alcohol?
So like 4 deep, you'd be like, oh,
No.
I wish we'd never won.
I'll tell you one thing. I mean, if you're wondering,
I don't think I'll be paying for it.
I'm waiting for the Alfie.
Oh no, I'm talking about the fans. Like, imagine.
I'm waiting for the Alfie footage. I want to see the Alfie footage at the Caps.
When you're a fan, you're like,
carried him up.
imagine if we hadn't have won. Half these people wouldn't be here. I'd be able to get a schooner in there.
I'll tell you what, there were some long lines at Cargo Bar yesterday before the cruise out. That was getting to me, Jimmy.
Jeez, look at you, the company you keep. One thing I do know, though, is if you're wondering what Brisbane are getting up to with their celebrations, just go on social media. You've got a fair idea what's going on.
I think those boys should maybe put the phones away.
Put it on
a couple of days and just enjoy it with your teammates, boys.
Airplane mode, boys. Airplane mode. Capture the footage, put it out later. Quick break, back in a moment to talk about the Kangaroo squad and Grand Final day as a whole as well. Triple M NRL Daily. Kangaroo squad is out, guys. And I've got the whole squad here. I'm not going to go through it. But debutants. Blake Brayley. You'd be pumped for him.
Yes.
Wado.
Yes.
Colomatungi, who I reckon he must have been so close to a New South Wales jersey this year.
Definitely in the discussion.
Went on that new diet under Wayne Bennett and it paid dividends. Unfortunately, South didn't happen for him. Marky Mark's there. Jacob Preston. Shibasaki, we mentioned before. Ethan Strange. And Reece Walsh. Weird seeing the asterisk next to him, given that he's potentially the best player in the game after what happened in the grand final.
Hang on, why is he in?
Well, Reece Walsh.
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, he didn't play Origin. He couldn't get in. He was 18th man.
Come on, mate.
I thought Origin was.
As soon as the NRL season over, started talking Ashes, you just worried about
I thought Origin was a trial for the Aussie team.
You just worried
he was
about your
18th
English
man
team, okay?
for Queensland, so he shouldn't be
You
in.
see where this is going,
You stay out of our business, all right?
So
You just worry about you.
He wants this clipped up. He wants this clipped up, sent to England, right? And say, hey, listen, Gaffer, look at this, right?
3, 4.
This is how the Australian team picked their side through picking players that weren't even good enough for Origin.
He's one of 7 who didn't play Origin in the Kangaroo squad. So what do you want us to go over with a squad of 13?
Just pick your Origin
he's
players.
in, mate. He's in. It's a good reward for, like you think Shibasaki, the year he's had. Probably a lot of people were thinking maybe Bradman Best would come into that squad possibly, but He just hasn't
Especially
played.
when he rocked up to training a bit dusty a few weeks
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, and he hasn't played any footy by Bradman Best, and Shibasaki was fantastic in the grand final, so well in for him. Obviously, Blake Brayley, a fantastic year, Dalian Hooker of the Year. It's a good reward for probably a couple of solid seasons in a row for him. He's really starting to elevate himself into being one of the elite nines in the competition. Strange, good to see him in there after that season that he's had. And it's a great reward for all those guys. And I think, it's funny because we're talking about possibly Teddy being in that team and being out because of his best man at his brother's wedding, but it'd be hard to leave Walsh out of that fullback spot now in that first test match.
England are happy if he's
for,
left out.
For all talk of eligibility, who's going to be available, I mean, that 24-man squad is going to take some beating. The spine alone, Cleary, Munster, Walsh, Grant, I mean, come on. Coates on one wing, Lomax on the other. Any trio of Futsumala Awe, we've got Lindsay Collins in the mix, Isaiah Yeo, Patrick Carrigan, the edge back rowers, Angus Crichton, Hudson Young. I mean, Tony Staggs in one. Like, this is...
And a good reward. Sorry, I didn't mention him. Jacob Preston. He's been fantastic from the Bulldogs. And he's been touted as a rep player for the last couple of seasons. Probably been a little bit unlucky with injuries over the last couple of years, but it's good to see him get a reward for some really great footy. And the one I want to actually single out is probably Mitchell Moses, because it's a good nod to how well he played in Origin and how highly he is viewed in terms. Well, Munster and Cleary are probably going to be your 7 and 6.
And
right?
did in your 14.
And did in your 14. And they picked Ethan Strange, a young guy who had a fantastic season for his versatility. And I thought with just a 23-man squad to pick 5 halves, it's a lot to take over there, considering some of them might not get a game. But when you're building for a World Cup year, it probably says that they value Mitchell so much that if something was to happen to Cleary, he's probably the next 7. That's why they're bringing him, I think, because otherwise you trust him to go, okay, mate, we're probably not going to use you. You're not at the status in the game where you're an emu, really. Like, we value you. You're just probably not in front of Cleary at the moment. But if something was to happen, your first drop into that team as the 7. So I think it's a good a good view of respect towards Mitch and the value that the Australian selectors view him.
Any hard done buys?
Oh,
Dave?
look, I was just going to say the team was announced at 10 a.m. on Monday morning at NRL headquarters with Peter V'landys and head coach Kevin Walters. And Peter V'landys was asked specifically in and around the selection of Zach Lomax, given all the talk in relation to R360 and the fact that, by and large, we all believe that Zach has one foot out the door and is about to sign with this Rebel rugby comp. Now, Peter V'landys couldn't be more matter of fact when he said, are you talking about the competition you'd find in a box of cornflakes? So he's completely brushed off R360. He's done it again. And so they've brushed it off. And Kevin Walters said, look, I'm in the business of picking the best team for now and best team for the Ashes, and Zach Lomax is in that team. So from an NRL, ARL point of view, they're not going down the path of what the ARU, Australian Rugby, have indicated, or where any player that signs with R360 will be blocked from playing for the Wallabies.
We haven't seen it as well. Was he happy, even though he said he's going to go back to...
Again, and they're treating it on its merits. He's the best option for the Ashes at this point in time, and he still has a year to run on his contract next year.
But we'll also...
in the NRL.
Yep.
This isn't like a warm-up series for the World Cup. This is like now.
Yep.
This isn't an eye on the future. This is now. This is like, this is going to mean absolutely everything for these players. So who cares what Mark Nwangani-Tuase is doing next year? It's about what he's going to do in October. Is he available? Yeah. Is Lomax available? Yeah. Why would you not want them in your team?
I saw your coach do a presentation to a selection of players over there. Almost had me out of my seat. Jimmy,
it's
about
a huge,
the opportunity for the English players.
It's huge for everyone. Like for this Australian team, not featured in a 3-game series since 2003. Cameron Smith never played in an Ashes. Billy Slater never played in an Ashes. Sam Burgess never played in an Ashes. It's forgone. Like some of the game's greatest from here and England. Like Australia and England have played each other. World Cup finals, Tri-Nations, Four Nations, but not an Ashes series. This is huge, and to treat it as anything other than deal with the immediate would be a slap in the face. I don't care if Lomax goes or Mark Nwangani-Tuase's going. You pick your best team for now.
NRL Grand Final day as a whole, guys. What'd you make of it? The women's game was awesome. Stink at the end there as well.
Well, just on that, just really quickly,
Yeah.
Aliyah Nassio has been charged for striking. It's a grade 3 striking. She's been referred straight to the judiciary.
Straight to.
I think that's certainly the first case I've heard in NRL W where a player's been referred straight to the judiciary for striking, for punching. So we'll see how that unfolds. I thought it was one of the great grand final days, really. I thought it was outstanding. Teddy swum. He did well.
Jeez, wasn't Gordy into it?
I see what you did there. I like it.
Jeez, Gordy was into it, wasn't he? It's like a little 15-year-old girl at a Kid Laroi concert. That was last year.
I just left him to it.
Well, it was a good day for
I went for a wee.
A great day for the Broncos at the club. Obviously, the NRLW girls getting that done, beating the undefeated Roosters. So much experience up there. Ali Bringershaw again lifting the trophy. It's another premiership for her and her team. So just dominated. It's hard to say from a Sydney sider, but dominated by the northern state, Brisbane.
And our state championship wasn't even won by a team from our freaking state.
There's a lot going on.
Those Bailey lads looked like they'd
had a couple they'd enjoyed themselves.
Enjoyed their previous grand final. Warriors, on the other hand, maybe a few more
Have you got the numbers,
self-disciplined players.
Yeah, the numbers are ridiculous.
The numbers
they are extraordinary.
4.6 average, 4.6 million.
4.46 million. National TV audience. It's the highest rating show of program of the year.
Yep.
Including beating the AFL Grand Final, of which in at the NRL, they're all just doing cartwheels down the hallway and throwing a party because they've kicked the teeth in the AFL.
I can't believe it beat Origin, man. That's
State of Origin, extraordinary. NRLW also attracted more than 1 million viewers, which is another great indication.
More than the Bledisloe as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
So, I spoke to Peter V'landys this morning about this, and I said, listen, it's just been an extraordinary final series. Grand final day was outstanding. We're seeing these unbelievable TV ratings and viewers. And on the current broadcast deal, there still remains 2 years in the contract. Is there any wiggle room of maybe bringing that afternoon grand final early in the next 2 years? And he said, interestingly, myself and Andrew Abdo were standing up in the grandstand yesterday, and we were watching it all unfold, and we looked at each other and said, what have we done? What are we going to have to come up with next year to try and beat this? And I think the only thing they can do to beat what has unfolded in this final series is to move it to Sunday afternoon grand final.
The fact it's rated so well.
Yeah.
Like if you're the boss of the TV network and you see those numbers come in, and someone goes, "Hey, should we put this on at 4?" You go, no.
If it's in the contract, it's not changing.
No, well,
Channel 9 will not voluntarily change that. Look, it is the perfect storm. Pardon the
cocktail of
Melbourne audience.
That's right.
Brisbane audience. Brisbane nearly 1 million.
Yeah,
which is unheard. I didn't know they had 1 million people, like 1 million televisions up there, but they do. Shout out to Brisbane. And Sydney, we're interested anyway. Yeah. So it's the perfect cocktail for a massive. And they capitalised. But you look at the AFL Grand Final, it wasn't far off. Like, they beat them. But that's at 3 o'clock on a Saturday Arvo, which tells me you put that on at 5 o'clock yesterday and it still rates the same.
Yes.
I wonder what the path is to getting an afternoon grand final. Is it losing a game? Is it maybe because the national championship game, like, again, we just joked about it. Burleigh obviously might have enjoyed their winning their premiership with the
Maybe.
interstate
Might.
competition.
The Queensland Cup.
Yeah, I don't know how much that actual national championship would maybe mean to some of the teams because you're playing against a team that you never play throughout the season anyway. So
Yeah, I think all the discussions I've had is, let's go and have our good night out after winning our comp, Queensland or
yeah.
New South Wales comp. But there is let's dial back in and go and win the whole thing.
I think it would be nice to win it,
Mm.
but I don't think they're losing sleep over losing it
Sure.
either. So I don't know where. And again, I could be speaking out of school. I know I wasn't involved in a game like that, so I'm uncertain to how much motivation those players have. But is it just getting to the 2 games, maybe a double header?
Nah, but back in the day, like when there was a
Flag,
3
there used to be
three
a flag
o'clock.
game.
Oh, there was a 9 a.m. game. It was awesome.
Yeah.
You wake up and there's
Yeah.
grand final.
There
goes
is a
on.
discussion of the NRLW having a standalone grand final.
Yeah.
That's a discussion point that the NRL will have.
It's worthy as well. I think
Yeah.
it's a matter of
Be it on the
it's a matter of when, not if.
be it on the Saturday night.
Yep.
As a standalone NRLW grand final in a stadium that is befitting of that
Well,
crowd.
High Seed
I would
holds
say
it.
Allianz or Suncorp Stadium.
Highest seed holds that. You want a crowd there.
Totally. Yep.
So anyway, it's been a campaign.
Oh,
A few of us are a bit wary,
I
aren't
can't
we?
wait. I'm going camping.
Camping.
No phone service. I can't wait to be away for a week, just off the grid.
Awesome. Well done. Jammer, what are you doing?
He's fine. dude.
Going to
He's flying
England.
to
So
Oh,
yeah,
When are you going?
a couple of weeks. So yeah, going on taking a touring party of Australians
Have you
Can't-
picked your team yet? The final Ashes squad?
for England or
Yeah.
for Australia. No,
Yeah.
no. Grand finals
Oh,
next Saturday.
I can't wait to see that and then start telling you how to pick your team.
And Dave, rugby league never sleeps.
It never
so
sleeps.
You,
I'm just going to spend the next 2 weeks following Reece Walsh's live stories on Instagram.
lucky you. Thanks, everyone. That was the NRL Daily.